So this topic, we're here from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and today's topic is actually going to be dealing with business-to-business marketing, or if you like, marketing to business and government. And the thing is if you come to DC, it's different than other places in terms of getting around and how business works and how things happen. And the thing is in B2B world, there is a difference than in the B2C world. And so what's going to happen in this chapter is we're going to talk about the differences between the B2B marketing world, the business-to-business marketing world, and the B2C or business-to-consumer marketing world. So we're going to have that. We're also going to look at is how are purchasing decisions different in the B2B world versus the B2C world. So we'll go through things like requests for proposals, which will be something you're going to hate when you grow up and have to do a real job and deal with these things. Other things we're going to look at are the different types of purchases that are out there, the different kind of purchasing decisions that people have and companies have to make in the B2B world. But also we're looking at things like buying centers, who we have to deal with, who's the person that's the most important one, all kinds of stuff. So I hope it'll help you learn a little bit more about marketing in the B2B world. One of the things you would know though is in the B2B world, the money's a lot more, because think about it. If you're doing a business to consumer marketing, you're selling one iPhone to one person making what? $1,000. You sell 10,000 iPhones? Well, now you got a lot of money when you're selling it to the state government or something like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this chat. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this topic. I'm going to tell you, it's probably one of the most boring ones of the semester, so be strong. Bye from DC. Hey there students, we're back, and today we're going to talk about are the different types of B2B markets or business-to-business markets that you might find yourself in when you're doing business, because we're not always selling to the end customer. Sometimes we're selling to the next person down the supply chain, and that's where our B2B markets kind of come in. Now, probably the one that people know the most are manufacturers. In the manufacturer market, there's kind of two ways, there's many ways, but there's kind of two basic ways that manufacturers use products, or different kinds of markets that manufacturers are. So one, they're purchasing raw materials in order to make their products. So, Culver's restaurants, they buy ground beef in order to make their burgers. They buy cheese in order to make the cheeseburger, the butter burger, these kind of things. So sometimes you're a market of just buying stuff in order to make my own product. Okay, it's part of the final product. So it might be I'm buying a computer chip that goes into my laptop that I sell. There's those kind of manufacturer market, but also there's a manufacturer market in terms of purchasing products that help the companies manufacture their products. So I'm buying the robots that are putting the chips in. I'm buying the griddle to fry up my burgers and stuff like that. So you have those kind of manufacturers. Those are two kind of markets there. Another thing you want to look at is resellers and retailers. So your Walmarts, your Targets, these kind of things, they're not making products per se. They're not growing the food and stuff like that. All they're doing is taking the cans from Dole and selling it to you. So the resellers and retailers, they do not manipulate the goods, okay? They're just out there to sell what a manufacturer already made. And so that's another market you might see. And the thing is, with resellers and retailers, they're the ones that are dealing with the end customers. So that market there, you could learn a lot from them. If you do have these retailers, you have the resellers, you want to make sure you're asking, hey, what have you seen? What have clients been saying? Have they been returning our products? What can we learn from that? Because you'd be surprised how you can find things out. I know, Comcast or AT&T, all these ones, when they get new modems coming out and, oh, these modems don't work with our internet and stuff like that. Obviously, Best Buy would know that because Best Buy would sell the modem and stuff like that for internet, and people would come back and say, this doesn't work with AT&T. And so what they end up doing is learning from those resellers, oh, we do have an issue on our website. It's telling people to buy stuff that we can't actually sell. So you will have things like that. Now, the third kind of B2B market you're going to see are organizations. Think churches, schools, universities, things like that. If you're going to be selling to these organizations, nonprofits and stuff like that, what's one of the biggest issues you see? If you ever went to high school and you were in the band or in a sports club or anything like that, you probably had to sell pizza or popcorn or donuts or something like that because they have no money, okay? And organizations, usually when you're dealing with them, you're not going to have a lot of cash, okay? So you're not making a ton of money selling to schools. So you might look at it as how can we set up special pricing or maybe special products that are just for schools or just for nonprofits. And so you might be dealing built in that way. So you're thinking about maybe donations or deals and stuff like that. And then the fourth B2B market you see is the government, the biggest purchaser out there. Yes, if you become a preferred supplier, that means the government said you're okay to work with, so they don't have to ask permission every time. You get one of those, they do buy in bulk. I mean, think about it, selling toilet seats for all the toilets in all the government buildings, that's a great amount of money. Yes, there's a billionaire that sells toilets, and there's a billionaire that also sells toilet paper, and you have those things. But it is tough to become that preferred supplier. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through, a lot of checks and stuff like that. It's a lot of requirements. So a lot of companies just say, you know what, it's too much effort to do that, so they don't. But if you do, it can be a really good guaranteed business. But there is one thing you got to realize: if you're working with governments, sometimes the payments can be late, especially if you got a state that has budget problems. They might not be able to pay right away. It might take a few months. So sometimes you'll see some companies say, look, for insurance purposes, perhaps. Let's say we have a deal with a state government saying, look, we'll take your workers on our dental plan. It's a dentist office, but they have to pay out of pocket, and your insurance can pay them first, because we can't wait 2 months to get paid, or 6 months to get paid, or a year to get paid. So you do have that. So I hope that helps you get to know the 4 types of B2B markets. So you got the manufacturers, the resellers and retailers, the organizations that are out there like the churches and schools, and then the government. So I hope that helps. If you're studying for the exam, good luck for the exam, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Hey there, fellow marketers. Professor Walters here, and today we're here in New Orleans, Louisiana, and today we're going to talk about is B2B marketing, or business-to-business marketing, and basically give you an idea of what business-to-business marketing is. So B2B marketing basically is when Apple is trying to sell more iPhones to Walmart, or Bob's Farm is selling tomatoes to McDonald's to put on their sandwiches. These are businesses selling to other businesses, or businesses buying from other businesses. And they can do it in a lot of different ways. Because you think about it, if I'm Dell, okay, I need to buy my processors, right? So I can buy the processors already made by Intel and buy that from them and just put it in my computer, right? So it's kind of like I'm buying parts that are used in parts of my product so it actually can function. So if you think about it, that is Subway buying tomatoes, or McDonald's buying cheese. We're buying stuff in order to put it into our product to make our finished product. Another side of it is when businesses buy kind of products from other companies in order to make their products. So this would be if you're buying a manufacturing press, or like McDonald's when they buy those ovens, or they buy the flat tops to fry the burgers on. That's also B2B marketing, okay? And the thing is, companies that you think of that are really business to consumer companies like Apple and Dell and these kind of things, they're actually not just selling to you, the end customer. Think about it. How many of you actually bought your iPhone from Apple directly? Like, some of you have, but some of you, did you get it through AT&T or Vodafone or somebody else? Yeah, you bought it through them. So Apple needed to sell those iPhones to Vodafone, needed to sell them to AT&T, and then Apple sold it on to you. And so a lot of times what you'll see is companies are actually selling both to the end customer, because you'll see those Apple ads of people dancing around enjoying their music on their iPhones, but also they need to sell to Walmart, so Walmart will carry it too. The thing is, with B2B marketing, you're going to be selling a lot more products. I mean, think about it. How many iPhones have you had in your life? What, 3, 4? How many iPhones has Walmart had? 3 or 4 million of them? I mean, you have to think about these things. There's just such a bigger amount of money and numbers of products being sold in the B2B sphere. That's why you have a lot more pressure. That's why if you're a marketing student, you're looking for a job, you want really great training, I always say is get a rotational program at a big B2B company, because they're going to teach you so much. You're going to learn so much, because when you're dealing with billion-dollar deals versus like hundreds of dollars of deals on one iPhone versus billion selling like 5 million iPhones, you're starting to talk about a little bit of different stuff, okay? So you want to think about those things, because really businesses are deriving most of their business, or a lot of them are deriving most of their business from these B2B sales, not from selling it to one end customer. I know sometimes it's weird to hear that, wait, Apple doesn't care about me so much? Oh no, they care about you, but their bigger thing is I got to get AT&T to want to promote this, so when you go to your AT&T store and go, my Galaxy's not working so well, hey, well, we got this new iPhone out here that might do it for you. You have these kind of things, okay? So overall, B2B marketing, what is it? Businesses selling and buying from other businesses. That's it, okay? So you have an idea of what it is. Now, there are some similarities and differences between B2B and B2C marketing, and we have a video that really goes through the differences about where they're located, their relationships and stuff like that. You really need to watch that video to have a really in-depth idea of the differences, but I thought this was good just to give you a nice little start into what B2B marketing is. Anyway, I wish you all the best, and bye from here in New Orleans. Hey there, fellow marketers, Professor Walters here, and today we're here in Vicenza, Italy to talk about the differences between business-to-business marketing and business-to-consumer marketing, some of the basic differences out there. And the first difference I want to talk about is actually kind of the relationship that companies have with their clients when it comes to B2C marketing versus B2B marketing. So in a business-to-consumer marketing, when Coke is selling you, the individual, a can of Coke, you kind of get impersonal communication, right? They kind of mass market their products to anybody and everybody that might want to have a Coke. It's not like they say, hey Mark, this Coke's for you. Yes, I know they have the cans and the bottles that say your name on it. So they're trying, but in general, you have very impersonal communication, a lot of electronic communication, and no one really feels too special in that B2C world. Now in the B2B world, the relationship's a little different, okay? In the B2B world, it's very important to have really tight relationships with your clients. So you're building these one-on-one relationships. You're making sure they're getting the personal connection. You're sending them the birthday cards. You're calling them to let them know congratulations on that promotion, because relationships becomes much more important in the B2B world than the B2C world. And the reason that is, we're going to go into the second topic, and that is the number of clients out there and how much they purchase. Think about it. In the B2C world, how many Coca-Colas do you buy a day, a month, a year? One a day, maybe 6 a week, maybe 50 a year. Well, how many does Walmart buy? 50,000 a week, kind of stuff. It's a very different kind of relationship there. Because in B2C, we have tons and tons of customers, but they buy very, very small amounts. Whereas in the B2B world, we have very few customers, but they buy huge orders. I mean, think about it. If I'm selling jet engines, right? There's only a few companies out there that sell them. So I got to make sure I have that good relationship with them, because there's not too many other people I could possibly sell to. And when they do order, they order, 10 to 20 to 30 planes at a time, where I'm not sure how many planes you're ordering, but I'm not ordering any planes recently, okay? So we're kind of looking at those kind of things. Now, the next thing we look at is kind of like the demand of product and services. Now, in the B2C market, people realize, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go buy something now to eat it, right? And so they know that, so they'll go and buy it. That's why it's a lot easier to influence individuals in a B2C world than a B2B customer. Because if you're hungry, you can make a decision. Whereas in the B2B world, your demand is not necessarily because you're hungry. Your demand in the B2B world is more, hey, we're planning on selling 1 million cars this year, so we need 4 million tires for those 1 million cars. It doesn't matter if you give me a deal, I still need 4 million cars because we're gonna be building this many cars. And the thing is understanding demand. In the B2C world, I just have to understand the end customer's demand. But in B2B, I have to understand if I'm selling like Coca-Cola to Walmart, I have to understand what Walmart's demand for Coca-Cola is going to be, but also what the demand for the end customer is for Coca-Cola, for the end customer for Walmart. And so there's a lot more stuff you need to know in terms of understanding supply and demand when it comes to the B2B versus B2C market. So the next thing I want to focus on is geographic location. Basically, where do you need to be if you're going to be working the B2C market or the B2B market? Well, in the B2C market, I mean, you can be based in Atlanta and sell Coke all around the world. You can be based in California and sell iPhones all over the world. Because in B2C, you don't have to be where the customers are, because there's so many of them that I need to be everywhere. So I can be wherever I want. Now, this is different in the B2B world. In the B2B world, you have to be where the customers are. So that's why if you want to be in the movie industry, well, you got to go live in Hollywood, right? If you want to work in the investment banking industry or venture capital, you got to be out in San Francisco, right? You have to think about these things. Oh, I want to play at the West End and be an actor there. Well, you got to go to London to be on the West End. You have to be there for that, okay? And that's why it's really important to know, where is this industry really located? That's where our company needs to be, because those relationships become much more important. I need to make sure that you can show up at my office today, not give me a call and say I'll be there in a few days. No. B2B, it's really important because the size of the orders that you're there where the client is. Now, the next thing I want to look at is actually supply chain complexity. So how complex is this supply chain going to be to get our product to the customer? Now, In the B2B world, a lot of times it's a lot easier because sometimes your clients say, I want you to ship it straight to our stores or ship it straight to our warehouses. And that's what you do. So you make your product and you ship it directly to them. So there's nobody in the middle. There's no middleman, there's no wholesaler, there's no retailer. It's just me to you. So it's almost a one-stop supply chain. Whereas you think about it, for me to get my phone here, I got my Samsung phone here. Let's say it's made in Korea, okay? So it's made in Korea, then it has to go from the factory to the boat, and then it has to go on the boat to LA, then it gets out of the port at LA, and then it gets in a train. From there, it goes across the country, then gets to a truck, and then at the truck in Indianapolis gets and drives it to Chicago and drops it off there. There's a lot more steps in the supply chain in the B2C world, and that means there's a lot more problems that can happen because their supply chain's a lot more complicated than the B2B. Now, it's not always the case, but most of the time, that is one of the big issues you have. And then you look at the complexity of the buying situation. If I'm hungry, I make the decision, I go eat. That's a business to consumer thing. It's very simple. I can inspire people. I always love when I talk about a restaurant in class for like an hour and a half, and I'll use Culver's as the same example, and then I'll go to Culver's after class. Boom, there's gonna be a student there, okay? Or maybe I'll talk about McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit and how the cheese oozing off the side and the bacon mixed together is so wonderful with the sweet tea. Now imagine it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you haven't had breakfast, you're thinking, I want a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. And boom, I will see students there, no problem. Because you can really inspire people in the B2C market to get them to want to have demand, like I said before, but also they can make that decision on their own. It's not very complex. It's usually just one person making that decision. Whereas when you go to the B2B side, there's a lot more people involved. It's kind of like if you're trying to order pizza with 10 other friends, it takes forever to figure out what we're gonna have. Well, she needs gluten-free and he hates pork, but he loves extra cheese, and we gotta figure all these things out. Well, think about it in the B2B sense. Well, we got to talk to accounting if they're okay with this. And we got to talk to finance if they're okay with this. And what did marketing say about the new website? You have all these other people that get involved in the decision-making process. So it takes a lot longer to get things done. So you're not going to be able to inspire a bunch of last-minute sales in the B2B world. The B2C world, yeah, you can, but B2B, no. It takes a lot more people involved and it gets a lot more complicated. So I hope this helps you understand a bit better the differences between the B2B and B2C markets. And the thing is, we have another video out there that really goes into depth of what does this really mean for companies to kind of help you understand a bit more. So I hope this does help you out. If you like marketing videos like this, please give us a like and hit that subscription button. Also, hit the bell. We put out new marketing and business videos, usually a couple times a week. And we hope it helps you if you're studying for an exam or just trying to understand business a bit better. I hope we can help you out because we want to help you on your journey, wherever that journey is, running your own business or getting an A on an exam. I hope this helps you out. So I'll say bye from Vicenza. Hey there, fellow marketers, Professor Walters here, and today we're going to be talking about the B2B buying process, or the business-to-business buying process. I'm sure you've watched our video on the B2C buying process, like how normal people like you and me go and buy things and stuff like that. But what you have to realize in the business-to-business buying process, it gets a bit more complicated. You've got more people involved. You got to think about more things than just, I'm hungry, I'm going to go get Culver's. Now it's more like, the entire class is hungry. What do I get them to eat? Oh man, there's a lot more information I have to take in, okay? And so we're going to go through this process step by step. And obviously, the first thing we have to think about, the first step is what we call need recognition. Someone has to realize that there's a problem, okay? Like when you're hungry, you think, oh, I'm hungry. But for a company, it could be, hey, our computer system isn't fast enough, or our internet can't like sustain all the people watching Netflix in the afternoon instead of working. Okay, and so we try to see where these need recognitions can come from. Yes, it can come from the workers that notice these things because, hey, I can't do my job as well. Also, it could be our suppliers that let us know, like, hey, we see that the other people we're selling to are buying more, non-meat burger stuff. You might want to think about the McDonald's because the Impossible Whopper is doing so well. Or it could be our salespeople that are going out there and talking to clients and seeing that clients want something else. They might bring that back, say, hey, our products need to change so our customers will buy them more, okay? Also, you might learn from your competitors. I mean, when all those phone companies saw how popular the iPhone was, they realized, hey, we got to need recognition. We got to change things, okay? In our buying process, we got to buy stuff to build a different kind of phone, a smartphone with that touchscreen and stuff like that, just like the iPhone. Other things you might go to an industry trade fair and see that. There's all kinds of places where this need recognition might pop up, okay? Because it can come from any time and anywhere. And once you realize there's that need, we have this need, we got to get something done. Now we have what's called product specifications. We really have to lay out what do we need in order to get that need fixed, okay? That requirement like taken care of. And so what we do is we kind of lay out all the attributes and needs that our product should deal with, okay? So if it is a new computer system for a university, okay, well, we need to lay out our product specifications, 42,000 students, 10,000 staff and faculty. We need maintenance. We need to make sure it's backward integrated so it can use the old software so we don't have to buy it again, but also be ready for new software that's coming, that it also can connect to our huge, big mega computer here as well. You're laying all those things out there because it helps you realize, like, who can I work with? I mean, if I need a computer system for 42,000 students and 10,000 workers, maybe Bob's computer shop down the street might not be the right person to go to. They probably can't handle the load. We're going to have to go to a Dell or an Apple or somebody like that that can help us out. And the thing is, once we start laying out these product specifications, it helps us, but also it helps our suppliers know what they need to be doing. And the thing is, sometimes you actually have what are called preferred suppliers, and those are the ones you already work with. They're kind of like your friends in business. And so you might talk to them, and then they might work with you to say, oh, well, you want this, but you also want to be thinking about the next step as well. It's not just a computer system, it's a holographic interface, and that's what's coming down the pipelines. Oh, I never thought about that. Yes. And that takes us into our third step, and that's the request for proposal. This is when we kind of officially announce, hello, we need help, suppliers. Could you come with some ideas, please? And you actually build up a request for proposal. And we have a video that goes through request for proposal step by step, but basically you're asking for proposals. Hey, could you help us out? Okay, so you have that. And now the next step, once you get all those RFPs in, you have your step for proposal analysis and vendor negotiations, or you could also say and vendor selection. Okay, so the firm will have multiple vendors. Okay, there's going to be sending us stuff in, or at least hopefully we will. Okay, and we have to kind of rank them, like who's doing better, what do we like more. That's why you have all those criteria in your RFP to kind of help you know is how do I rank somebody better. And once we kind of analyze these proposals, we might then look at the vendors, like do we like this vendor, do we not like this vendor, what has been our kind of experience with them before, and then we're going to negotiate them. Okay, now we actually have another video that goes into the factors in purchasing decisions, like with our suppliers and supplier stuff, so I want you to check out that video as well. But we're going to move on to the next step, because you've selected your vendor now, and now we have step 5, and that is order specification. Here, the buyer actually has to say, yes, I want to buy from you. You make that decision, okay? And the thing is, this is where you're going to really like hammer out the details. That RFP was kind of like the rough draft. Now what you're doing is you're laying out exactly the dates, the times, the amount of students, the amount of computers you need, all this kind of stuff. That's where it really comes in. So all those terms, they get finalized. Those payments, that gets finalized. The delivery date, who's working on what, start, finish dates, all that stuff is going in here. And you do not want to leave any parts out, because remember, this is your contract. And the thing is if they say, oh, we'll do that for you, no problem, I don't care if they tell you no problem. What you do is you make sure you go, hey, I see there's something missing in here. We need to put it in the contract, because if it's not in the contract, they don't have to do it, okay? So make sure you're putting all that stuff in your order specification part. And then the last step is, after everything's been done, you want to make sure you have a vendor performance assessment. How did that vendor do? How did that supplier do? Did they deliver stuff on time? Was the work in good shape? These kind of things, because one, you want to make sure they did a good job, but two, you might want to use them in the future, and you want to make sure you have a kind of criteria. Oh, this is where they messed up. I need to make sure they don't mess up the corners of the walls, because we needed rounded corners so the kids don't hurt themselves at that school versus the square corners. You want to make sure you have those notes, because what happens in the B2B world, a lot of times one purchase makes that big purchase this time, but the next time it's somebody else, and they might not have worked with that vendor. So you want to really mark down what you liked and didn't like from each of the vendors, so you can have that for next time to know, should we work with them again, yes or no, okay? Anyway, I hope this helps you understand in general what the B2B buying process is. Don't forget, we have other videos that go into some of these parts specifically, like the RFP process and ways we analyze, our suppliers or potential suppliers. So check out those videos as well. And if you want to learn more about B2B marketing, please subscribe. Bye. Hey there, fellow marketers. Professor Walters here, and today we're going to talk about our requests for proposals. Basically what these are, this is when a firm kind of announces, hey, we need help, suppliers, could you deliver something that can solve our problem? And here's kind of a background so you know what we're going to do. Okay, that's the kind of overall idea of what one is. And what I want to kind of go through today are the different parts of a request for a proposal. So for example, if a school system is looking to build a new school, they'll put out a request for proposal saying, hey, builders and contractors out there, we're looking to build a new high school that'll hold 2,000 students in a public school setting. Yeah, they'll have this kind of idea, and then companies will come with proposals for them. That's why it's a request for proposal, okay? Now, when you make your request for proposal, what you're going to do is you're going to start out with a statement of purpose. Okay, this really says what the firm is searching for in terms of general products, general services, overall objectives, what they want to get done in this contract. Okay, so it could be, we're looking to build a Montessori elementary school, which is a non-traditional school. Okay, we have an idea what we're looking for. So if a construction companies out there saying, oh, they want to build a school. Do we build schools? Do we build, professional buildings? Do we just build houses? That can let them know right away if it's a project that they might be interested in. Because if all I do is build houses, I see that they want to build a school. That's not what we do, okay? But if there's one that does do industrial buildings and things like that, we do build schools. Hey, this could be interesting for us. So that's why you start off with a nice little statement of purpose, okay? Now, the next thing you have is what we call background information, okay? This is where you're really going to talk about the company. You're going to talk about what your dreams and wishes are, what you kind of stand for, your values, these kind of things. So suppliers have a better understanding of what your company will kind of want, okay? So if you're looking at a Montessori school, for those of you that have not been to a Montessori schools don't have desks. There's not a teacher in front teaching students like A plus B plus C. No, students learn on their own. So there's a lot of open space, a lot of windows, a lot of different nooks and crannies and stuff like that. So it's not that traditional classroom that's just a square with desks in it, okay? And so companies would need to know that if they're going to say, hey, look, here's our proposal for your Montessori school. Now, in this background information, you might be putting stuff about your SWOT analysis in there, okay? Basically, any relevant information that's going to help them understand, what your product is. So if you're a university looking to put in a new computer system, you might say, we have 42,000 students and 10,000 faculty. We will need, installation. We will need training. We'll need maintenance for this. And that lets companies know, it's like, oh, they're going to need maintenance. Yeah, we just do installation. We don't fix up later. This isn't for us, okay? So you're kind of looking at that. And that kind of leads into what we call the scope of work. And this is where we really lay out what is expected from the supplier, okay? What's exactly expected, okay? So for building that school, what all does that entail? Well, we want you to build the building. We want you to outfit the rooms. We want you to build the parking lot. We want to make sure we have a playground out there as well. You're laying out all these different parts that need to get done. And the thing is, a lot of times what will happen is with the scope of work, you're using this when you're going to deal with a lot of subcontractors because you want to make sure everything is laid out there. Don't just assume, well, yes, if we're building a school, obviously they're going to put a parking lot in. Obviously they're going to put in a playground. They might not. You want to make sure all that's there. This is for the entire child experience when they're going to school, from when their parents drop them off at the front or the bus drops them off to the bus picks them up. So it's everything in between there, okay? So you might want to look at those things, all right? Now, the next step you have is what we call the outcome and performance standards. So here we're looking at our outcome targets, our minimum performance standards, what does it need to do? So that might be, if we're looking at that computer system, we need it to work at least 98% of the time. The internet needs to function at, 100 million gigabytes per second, whatever. You're really laying it out specifically what you're going to be monitoring, how we're going to know if they're doing a good job or a bad job, but also we're going to talk about how corrections will be dealt with. If the system does not work at 98% of the time, what are the ramifications for that? And how are we going to judge those outcomes? Like, when is it going to happen? Is it for those computer systems? Is it a random Tuesday? Is it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Is it, for an entire month overall? How's that going to be done? So we can kind of have an idea of what we're going to be looking at, what we're going to be judged against. I mean, it's kind of like when you're a student, you want to know that syllabus because you want to know, it's like, look, what am I going to be graded on? Well, this is where we're putting what the supplier is going to be graded on, okay? Now, the next thing you're going to have in your request for proposal is the deliverables. This is is kind of like a checklist of all the stuff that's going to be there, okay? So if it's that computer system, right? We're gonna deliver 10,000 computers, okay? Check. There's 10,000 computers. 10,000 mouse pads, check. 10,000 mouse, for the computers, check. You're listing all these things out there, and because you want to make sure everything gets delivered. So if you're building that school, you're paying for every single electrical outlet. It could be $20 per outlet. So you want to make sure every single one's there. And if you see that, look, we only have 25 outlets and we paid for 30, where are those other 5? Okay, so you want to make sure that deliverable's there so you can have it checked off your list, okay? Next thing you're going to look at is your terms and conditions. So this might be the start date of the contract, the length of the contract, when the contract could be renewed. Because for some companies, they're like, look, I want to be a supplier for you this time so I can be a supplier for the next time, the time after that, and the time after that. In the next part, we're going to talk about payments, incentives, and penalties. And I know I talked a little bit about penalties before, but this is where you really lay things out. So here we're going to tell them, what is the payment process going to be? Are you going to pay them all up front, or half up front, half at the end, or is it only paid at the end? Do you set it up that, hey, who covers the mistakes and mess ups? Oh, we were building this wall and it's not tall enough, we got to rebuild it. Who's paying for that? You kind of leave those things in there. But it's not just about the penalties. You're also looking at is how to reward them if they're doing a good job, if they get it done sooner. Let's say we got this computer system and they finish a month early, we can get it started. Do they get a bonus for that? We kind of put those things in there. And we kind of lay out what is inadequate or unacceptable performances. We're going to put that in there and what the different kind of penalties are. So that 98%, what if it's only at 97%? What's that penalty? What if it's at 90%? What if it's under 80%? What are the different penalties that are going to go into that? Okay. Now, next thing we're going to look at, you're going to put in there is what we call contractual terms and conditions. So these are your standard contract forms. So if we're building a school, I want to make sure that you have to have a certified architect, a certified engineer, okaying all the plans. Because I don't want somebody that just says, I like to build schools to build it and then it falls down. No. I need the certification. If we're looking at putting that school together, are we going to have a nurse? Well, then we're going to make sure that there's a certified nurse practitioner that's in there, okay? So we're looking at these kind of things. Now, the next part is now you've kind of gotten all this stuff out there. Like, look, here's what you need to know to get started. So when you got your proposal ready, now we put out the requirements for proposal presentation. Because you might have multiple suppliers coming back to you, okay? And they're going to be giving you different things. And the thing is, it's really difficult to judge an apple versus an orange. It's really easy to judge an apple versus an apple, right? So what you're going to do in these requirements for proposal presentations, you're really going to list out how the product will be presented to the firm. What documents you need, what's going to be included, how much time they're going to present for it, these kind of things to make it easier for you to compare. Like, here are the 5 things we're really thinking about. So let's know about that. So everyone focuses on those 5 things. And that kind of leads into the next step, and that is the evaluation and awards process. Here's where you really lay out the criteria for how the winner will be decided. Is it who can get it done first? Is it who can, do it under budget, or who can make the prettiest building? Whatever, you're laying out that criteria so that the companies know what they should be really shooting for. Okay, it's not just, oh yeah, we'll just put something together. Well, no, if they want to know which one can be the most safest building, well, that's what they're going to judge on, not on the cheapest. We need to know, we're going to put some, iron, steel bar, reinforced stuff in there. Okay, so you kind of think about those. And so you're going to put in those important factors, how do you weigh each one of those, things like that, so people know. All right. Then the next thing you're going to put in there is what we call the process schedule. So when things are going to happen, so the exact dates for each part, when you have to let them know if you're going to compete for this, when is the proposal due, when you'll make your decision, all this kind of stuff, that goes in there as well. And then you finish off with all the pertinent contact information. Okay. We need to know is, if I have questions about the curriculum at that school, who do I talk to? If I have questions about, the size of the school, who do I talk to? If I have questions about, restrictions in that town's building codes, who do I talk to? You put that contact information in there so the supplier knows if they have questions, who can I talk to kind of clarify things so I don't mess up. All right. Now, requests for proposals, are they fun? No. Are they a part of life? Yes. Will it be part of your job you hate? Probably. Okay. But they're important because we want to get all these different proposals coming in so then we can kind of look at them and say, hey, okay, what does this proposal have that I like? What does this one I have that I like? Could we take some from each one and figure out what works? Because that's sometimes what you do is like, I like both these proposals. And you might come back and say, look, you're 2 finalists. We like what you have. Can you do something else? Okay, so it really does help you out, and therefore helping you solve that problem that you've asked these suppliers to solve. So I hope this helps you understand better what a request for proposal is. If you want to learn more about B2B business, click subscribe. Bye. Hey there, fellow marketers. Professor Walters here, and today we're here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And today we're going to talk about is kind of a more in-depth dive into vendor analysis. Because when you're in B2B marketing, you're going to have a lot of different suppliers. I mean, think about it. Looking down here, there's multiple, steamboats I can go take a tour on the Mississippi River on. How do I decide which one's going to be best? And the thing is, when we're making our criteria, we'll have what tour is the fastest, which one has the most alcohol in their bar or whatever. You have these different criteria out there that you're trying to choose from. But the thing is, we don't always choose the best product when we're looking for our suppliers. There's a lot of other factors that kind of come into our vendor or supplier selection, because not every single purchasing criteria is the same. Because you may have that, look, we need to do the cheapest thing, but do you always go to the cheapest restaurant? No, sometimes I go up a little bit, or sometimes I go down. There's going to be other influences. Time might be something there, where the store is and things like that. That same thing happens in B2B. And the thing is, what we start to look at is we have to realize that choosing the supplier is just as important as choosing the product you're going to be buying. Because think about it, if you got a supplier that's not reliable, well, if I don't know if the ham is going to get there for my sandwich in time to make a ham sandwich, all I'm selling are cheese sandwiches. Well, that's not what people want when they're here, right? You want to think about those things. Because as you're going to have a lot of similar bids, reliability is going to become a very, very important kind of thing. Who can consistently deliver these things for me? It's kind of like when you're looking at restaurants, okay? When you're looking to go to a restaurant, if you're really hungry, you go for the old reliable. I'm hitting up my Culver's and get my double burger cheese because you know what? I know it's going to deliver on me. I can't take a chance. I'm not going to get satisfied. But if I'm like, I'm not that hungry, I just want to go have a bite, I'll try something new. You're willing to check something out that might not be as good. Like, I guess that wasn't as good as going to Culver's. You have these kind of differences you got to think about, because a lot of that's going to be based on previous experience, okay? You want to think about all the restaurants you've gone to. Doesn't it influence where you're going to go to next? It works the same thing with your suppliers. Hey, we've worked with them before. Was it a good experience or a bad experience? And that's going to influence us and our decision. And as a supplier, that's why it's really important to become a preferred supplier, one that has become kind of like okayed by the company so people can work with you all the time because they trust you. Because there are other things you have to think about, like personal and organizational factors that suppliers might not know about. So if you don't know that, the president of the company's kids go to school at Tulane, that it might influence them that they want to have more business meetings here in New Orleans versus Vegas, because then they can double dip, do business and see my kids at school. I mean, it sounds silly, but think about it. Why would you put, let's say you put your headquarters in Rio instead of Sao Paulo in Brazil? Because I want to be on the beach versus be in Sao Paulo, which is not a beach town. There's going to be all these little alternative motives that you got to think about. Because the thing is, you might not know all these things. That's why the relationship is really important, so you can understand the risk levels that are important for these companies, the personnel decisions that are important to these companies, all these kind of things. You might learn about the suppliers, so you as a vendor know, I need to tailor this offering so it not only is the best product for them, but it's the best situation for them, okay? And that's why it's important is after you do business with vendors, you want to make sure you evaluate and assess your vendor's performance, okay? Did they deliver what they said they were going to do? Was it on time? Did they do it within cost? All this kind of stuff you want to keep track of, because you'd be surprised how quickly people cycle through organizations or cycle through positions, because the person that's picking the convention for 2020 might be the different person that pictures the convention for 2025, right? And so they might not know that, when we did it in New Orleans that year, we had a different experience. Maybe we want to do it someplace else. So for not writing these things down, making notes about this, we might make the same bad decision or the same good decision. That's why you want it there. Okay, I assessed this supplier. It was a great time. New Orleans was a great place for our convention. Everybody had a great time back in 2020. Everybody got to do stuff. There's a lot of flights in there. There's a lot of things to do. The convention site worked great. So we know that this could be a place to go to again versus other situations. So you want to kind of think about those things because they will all have an influence on your supplier selection. So I hope this helped you understand better about supplier or vendor selection and analysis so you can make the right choice when you're looking for a supplier for your business. Anyway, I wish you all the best and bye from New Orleans. Hey there, fellow marketing students. Professor Walters here, and today we're here in Ljubljana, Slovenia at their Triple Bridge. And today we're going to talk about our actual buying centers in the B2B marketing world. Because in the business sense, you don't just have one person making a buying decision, you have multiple people making that buying decision. It could be a person seeing that there's a problem, another person that's got to make the decision to pay, there's another person that's got to go, pick it up, right? Someone's got to go down there and buy the product. And so what we're going to go through today is those individuals that are in a buying center in a B2B sense. And the thing is, you might see that I'm going to talk about a few different types of people, and in some sense it might be one person that does everything, or it might be 1,000 people that do these things. So it's something to take into account when you are thinking about this. Now, the first person we have to talk about is the user. That is the person that actually will use the actual product. So if I'm buying a new computer system for a university, well, it's all the students that are going to be using it, the faculty that's going to use it, the staff that's going to use those computer systems. Those are the users. So of course, we want to get their inputs. What do they need it to do? What does it have to do for them? Does it need to be backward integratable? Should it be forward integratable? What do we need to have with it? For example, I do, studies and all kinds of stuff, and my software works on PCs, not on Apple products. So I got to make sure I get that information in there, because we don't talk to the end users when we're making a buying decision. Well, are we really helping them? Because we might be buying the wrong thing that won't actually help them. So that's why you have the user come and help define what the problem is and what the solution should have in it, so you can make a better purchasing decision. Now, the next person that you might have in there is what we call the initiator. Now, a user using a product and then they see a problem and they note the problem, that means that they're now an initiator. The initiator is the person that sees the issue and says, hey, wait a minute, we got a problem here, something's going wrong. You do have those in the buying situation because someone has to recognize there is an issue. So there's the initiator person as well. And it could be the initiator sees a problem, or maybe they see the competition's doing something, or they hear about new technologies coming and say, could we integrate this GPS thing with our phones and a travel app, and so we can actually give people tours on their phone? So there's things you can look at it that way. Now, the next person we have in there is the influencer. And the influencer, obviously influences and maybe gives suggestions or has kind of a push of what's kind of important in certain issues. So for example, if I'm looking to buy basketball shoes for my kid, I want to check out Steph Curry and LeBron James. They're influencing my decisions because they're so important in this industry. So you got to look at that. But the thing is, those influencers are not necessarily within your business, so you have to take it with a grain of salt what they're really pitching. Because if LeBron tells me to buy Nike, well, he's getting paid by Nike, so that kind of might influence the influencer. So you do need to be careful with that. Next person I want to talk about is what's called a gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper is the person that kind of helps run the flow of information to the important people. Now, with the internet and email and stuff like that, the gatekeepers become kind of less of an issue. But if you're trying to get a hold of a publisher, like I want to get a Walters World book published, but I can't get a meeting with the publisher because the secretary or the system won't let me do that, that's where a gatekeeper can actually hold back your business. So you got to see is, how do we make sure we get all the information to the important people? Then you have the decider. This is the person where the buck stops here. They're the ones that has the final say, the final yes or no. They're the one that has to say yes on the check, okay? They're the actual decider. So it doesn't matter if all my students say, well, Mark, all 650 of us have decided that you should give us an A. Well, I'm glad that you all want to get A's, but as the decider, it's not going to work that way, okay? Some of you will probably not get an A, so do have a heads up for that. I make the decision. It doesn't matter what you say. So you do have that as well, so you got to think about that too in the buying center. Who is that most important decider person? And then you have the actual buyer. That's the person that goes to the store and actually buys the product. Now think about it. Maybe your mom gave you money to go to the grocery store. She says, oh, go buy me a dozen eggs. She gave you the money for the eggs, and you go and you get the eggs, you go up to the front and you see the eggs are broken. Are you gonna pay for the eggs then? No, even though your mom said, buy those eggs, and you got the money for it, but hey, as the buyer, I see at the last moment, there's an issue there. And so the buyer has some power too, because they can say, look, this isn't what we really ordered. That's why you got to be careful with it. Make sure that everybody in the buying center is taken care of and we're realizing what they're doing. So then when we're trying to do our buying center, we're trying to make our business purchasing decisions, we also are dealing with all the right people, okay? So I hope this helps you kind of have an idea of the people involved in a B2B buying process, in this buying center, because it does get a lot more complicated because it can be one person or hundreds of people that are involved in this. And that's why time and how long it takes to make a decision in the business world can be relatively frustrating. So I hope this helps you know a bit more about the buying centers in the B2B sense. If you want to learn more, hit that subscribe button. We put out new marketing and business videos every week. And I'll say bye from here in beautiful Ljubljana, Slovenia. Also, if you go over to our Walter's World Travel channel, we got videos on Ljubljana and Slovenia as well. Anyway, I'll say bye and good luck on your exam. One thing you have is what people are called initiators. These can be executives or users like Caleb here. And basically they start the process. They notice the problems. They decide basically we need to go in a different direction. You know, what's going on? What's wrong? Like?
Dad, I'm hungry.
Exactly. So he notices that he's hungry. There's a problem. We need to feed him. We need to feed stuff. And that's what initiators do. They notice the problem and say we need to get some stuff. And sometimes they can be an initiator and go out and try to find things. Yes, I don't know if you want to do that, but okay. Hey there, fellow marketers, Professor Walters here, and today we're here in Luxembourg, and today we're going to talk about our B2B buying situations that companies find themselves in, because companies will find themselves in various types of buying situation based on the products they're going to buy, the situation they're in, how much information they have, all these kind of things. And what you have to realize is the buying situations that companies find themselves in will be different than what the buying situations that individuals find themselves in, because individuals think of individual needs. Organizations have to think of organizational needs, their employees' needs, their customer needs. All these things are going to be influence us when we're making our purchasing decisions. So what you might think of is, what is the nature of the purchase? Is it something that's vital for the business? Is it McDonald's deciding if they're going to change farmers that they buy their tomatoes from? Or is it something more basic? Oh, where do we buy our toilet paper for our, local kiosk? Okay, these kind of things. We go to Sam's Club, or do we go to, Costco? These kind of things. So the nature of it's going to change. Also, you look at the number of people involved in the decision making. I mean, when I want to have lunch, I make my decision and go. But when I want to go with my family to make lunch, I got to ask my wife and the kids and see what they want. When I want to have lunch with a group, it's like, okay, who has allergies? Who likes this? Who cannot eat here? What time do you have? What time can you eat? And it takes a lot more time, it takes a lot more decision making, a lot more people involved, really can influence your buying situation for a business, because there are usually a lot more people involved. Also, you might look at the level of understanding that people have in the product they're buying. For example, I understand travel pretty well, so I don't really need to do a lot of research, do a lot of background. I can make my choices. I know I'm going to go with Delta and I'll be okay. But the thing is, if it's something I don't know about, like, hey, I don't know a lot about buying a franchise. I probably want to do more research about this, or where do I want to put my franchise? It's such a complicated thing that I don't have an understanding for. I'm going to do a lot more research. I'm going to ask a lot more questions, which makes it a different kind of purchasing decision. And also, you might look at the time frame as well. Is it an immediate decision, something we have to do now, or is it something we're thinking about for the future, for more longer term? And that will influence our purchasing decisions as well. And the thing is, these purchasing situations or buying situations really will vary greatly. Now, some other reasons why our buying situations or buying decisions might change is sometimes, the market changes. What if orange and blue are the really popular colors now, but during the purchasing process, we see that, red and black become really popular. Oh, do we need to make some changes along the way? Do we need some flexibility? This might influence your purchasing or buying situation as well. Because it could also be technologies changes, macro environmental changes. Hey, we're coming out with a brand new expensive car, and then the world goes into recession. Oh, maybe we switch that around. We purchase cheaper cars. We purchase, more affordable engines, so we can have a lower priced car to sell to our customers. And the thing is, when we break these down, the buying situations break into 3 buying situations. One, you have straight rebuys, which is kind of like when you're not thinking too much about it, it's pretty simple. You have modified rebuys, where you're doing a little bit of research because there might be some change you want to look at. And then you have new buys. And new buys, we're going to do the most research possible, because it's a new buy. You don't know what's going on there. Now, the first one I want to talk about is what we call straight rebuys. These are kind of like the most popular, most used kinds of purchasing situations that people do find themselves in the B2B markets, because you're usually buying the same stuff over and over again. If I'm a grocery store, I'm buying the same eggs, I'm buying the same Coke, I'm buying the same candy and stuff like that over and over. So I don't really think about it. It's not like I need to make a decision. Do I carry Coke or Walter's Cola? I'm not really sure. Let's do a search. No, you're buying Coke. You're going to replenish that because that's the easy thing you always do. It's like you don't really think about what toilet paper. You're just going to buy toilet paper because we've always bought toilet paper, we're not going to worry about it. So these are very much not complicated products and not complicated situations. Not a lot of thought process goes in. Actually, a lot of companies will actually have these straight rebuys set on like auto purchasing or auto renewing. That's why when you go beep beep with the candy across the scanner, well, it tracks all that, and then they know that, oh, there's only 15 Snickers bars left, we've got to ship some more out to the store. It's all connected that way. And the thing is, when you have these straight rebuys, you have what are called preferred suppliers. And like if you're in a government agency, if you have a preferred supplier, you can just do business with them, no questions asked. But if it's an out supplier, someone that hasn't been used before, or someone that is, unknown to the business, those, well, if you're an out supplier, it's a lot more difficult to break into that market because you're not someone they can just work with. They actually have to ask and learn about you first. So what out suppliers will probably do is you'll see them giving away lots of free samples, coming in, talking to the client quite a few times to help them understand the market, give them a lot of information. So hopefully one day they might want to use their products. I mean, it's like the old paper salesman, okay? He or she would go by and they would give like free paper all the time. Just in case your current paper supply runs out or you have any problems, we have some here for you. And then the thing is, it's like, oh, maybe you ran out of paper, you use theirs. Oh, that actually is pretty good. And when it comes time to renegotiate, maybe we find out about this other paper company instead. Now, the thing is though most purchases actually just happen again and again, they're these straight rebuys, sometimes we do see a crack in the armor, let's say, and you have what's called a modified rebuy. So a modified rebuy, we as the company, we understand the products, we understand the suppliers, we're pretty much happy with them most of the time, but we see there could be some issues out there. Maybe a new competitor has come out that has a different kind of product. You're like, maybe I should use those phones instead of those phones. Maybe we don't go back and buy the iPhones again and again. Maybe we go for the Samsung because they have better battery life or a better camera. What should we do? And the thing is this is where we're getting to that area where maybe I do switch. Maybe I don't auto buy the same thing again. Maybe I make a decision again. And this usually happens when there's a problem with a product or problem with a service. And you're like, wait, it's not really working like it used to. It's kind of like in a relationship. When you first date everything's so great, but after a while you start to see the flaws. Well, this is where we're starting to see the flaws, and you go, do I want to keep dating this person or should I date some other people? Well, it works the same way with your services or products, these modified rebuys. Do I want to keep dating this person or keep buying from this company, or should I look for some other alternatives? Because sometimes companies just want to go in a different direction, just like you might want to go in a different direction in your relationships, kind of stuff. That does actually happen. And the thing is, any of those issues could give kind of a crack in the door for those out suppliers to come in, because they're like, look, we told you this issue would happen, and it did, and we knew about the market before your current supplier did, so don't you think we're good? That's why you're always educating customers, even if they're not buying from you, because it shows you know the industry. And so when they decide they might want to switch suppliers, you're the one that's helped them out the most, and they haven't made any money off you yet, but they're like, hey, they've helped me. This gives me an opportunity, and it gives that out supplier an opportunity to become a preferred supplier. But the thing is, sadly, the pre-existing supplier usually gets the business back. It's kind of like, how many of you have redated? You broke up with somebody and then you dated them again. It happens because you're like, look, I already understand how you work. I already understand how the products work. I know the services already. I don't want to have to learn all these new things for a new supplier. Just like I don't want to learn all these new things for a new person to date. You have that. So most of the time, these modified rebuys, companies actually do stay with their current supplier, but at least you have an opportunity if you're an out supplier to get in there because they're trying to get a little bit more information. They're open to opportunities. And that leads us into a new buy. So a new buy is you're purchasing something that's complicated or something you've never purchased before, or something that needs a lot of information or has a lot of risk to your company. Yes, you're going to do a lot more research. So whether it's going to be making a major purchase or a major acquisition or something like that, you're going to do as much research as possible. And yes, your modified rebuys and your straight rebuys were nice, but this is something completely different. This, you're going to need as much information as possible. So those out suppliers, they have a great opportunity here because they've been educating the clients and stuff like this. And that's why if you're an in supplier, a preferred vendor for a company, you want to be helping them, your clients, all the time. You don't want to forget about them because one of these big purchases come, one of these new buys comes, they want to have more information. They want people they can trust, okay? And so you want to share this information because people are going to do their due diligence with these things. If I'm going to buy a completely new computer system for my business, I got to make sure, will it backward integrate? Will it forward integrate? Will it work with tablets? Does it do touchscreen? I need to know all these things because with all these new buys, it really is a much more risky, much more costly endeavor. And so then companies really want to know as much as possible. And so that might mean group discussions, looking at opinion leaders, knowing the influencers, listening to them. And that's why it's important to really train your sales force and your sales staff in order to be better educators, better consultants, better helpers, better strategic thinkers for their clients, because that's going to help your clients feel more comfortable doing their new buy with your business, okay? So I hope this helps you understand the 3 different kind of buying situations that companies find themselves in: the straight rebuy, the modified rebuy, and the new buy. So anyway, I hope this helps. I wish you all the best from here in Luxembourg, and enjoy your day. Bye from Luxembourg.